YouTube? Griffin here, coming back to you all with another live stream. Hopefully you guys have had a great weekend. How's it going there? Positive Vibes DIY. Yes, sir. Thank you for the gems. No, I appreciate you all tuning in. Of course, shout out to you guys first and foremost who are going to be taking the time out of your Sunday evening. You all could be doing obviously a whole bunch of other things with family, loved ones, etc. But you decided to hop on a live stream to try to, grow your knowledge in the pest control industry, an industry that, a lot of us know that we can make a lot of money in. And that's what we're going to get into today. In today's subject, I'm answering a question. I'm trying to get it pulled up because I had it in our live stream about a day or two ago from, Christopher C. He hopped on right at the end of the stream and said, "Hey Griffin, can you spend a session breaking down pros and cons of residential work versus commercial? Thank you." And I told him that I would definitely do a video for that. So we're going to hit specifically on the commercial side of it today. I'll probably do another live stream or maybe just upload a video depending on, which is quickest this week because I have a very busy week. But we're going to get into, of course, why you should avoid commercial pest control services whenever you're first starting your business. And of course, if you have any questions along the way, drop them down in the chat below, or if you're seeing this after the stream goes into a video, you can always ask in the comments. I try to keep up with them the best I can. That was one thing I always promised myself, the YouTube gods, whatever the case may be, that, regardless of how many comments end up coming in from YouTube, if I, get big, quote unquote, I'll always try to go in there and reply to comments and everything the best that I possibly can. So if you see this afterwards, just drop a comment below. And like I said, if you're just tuning in, because I see we just had a couple of y'all join, we're talking specifically today about why, of course, like the title said, why, commercial pest control sucks for the most part. And if you look at the description, you'll see, and even the title, I kind of hinted at, there are some caveats to that. There are a lot of reasons why you would avoid doing commercial pest control service when you're first starting your business. Some of them are obvious, right? A lot of them are cheapos, right? They don't want to pay you anything. For example, we just had a restaurant and the guy is constantly trying to chop me down. Like, we're not even talking much. He's just like trying to knock $5 off. And I'm like, no, it's this price. It's like an Asian restaurant or Japanese, something like that. And, he's always trying to just talk me down like $5. And I'm like, dude, it's $5. Like, part of me wants to just be like, it's $5. I don't care. Go ahead. But it's the principle at the end of the day. So dealing with, other cheaper people, that is obviously the first red flag of doing your commercial pest control service. Another thing is to piggyback off of, being cheap is when it comes to commercial pest control in general. I've got the whiteboard out for you guys again. We'll just start out with the obvious, right? Commercial. When it comes to commercial pest control, we have a few different categories within that, right? So we have what? Apartments. I'm not even going to say apartments. We'll just say housing is what we'll label it as. And again, excuse my chicken scratch handwriting. We have housing, we have restaurants, and I feel like I'm going to spell that wrong. Restaurant. Not good at writing or spelling. We got housing, we got restaurants, we have shopping centers. I'll just put shopping. You got hotels, right? You may even have like schools. Matter of fact, instead of just saying schools, I'll group them into like public buildings, right? What are public buildings? You have your schools. You may have like dentist offices or doctor's offices, hospitals, whatever the case may be. I'll just say public. We'll just say public is what we'll label that as. But we have what, 4 or 5 different categories. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 5 different categories. And I may even be missing one. If you think I'm missing one, let me know in the chat below. Don't be shy or anything. Most of you know by now when we do these live streams, they're for you specifically. So don't be shy in terms of trying to get that reflection out of the way a little bit. Don't be shy in terms of, putting comments or questions or anything. So when it comes to housing, like we said, the worst thing, and I'm just going to go literally one by one of like the worst, and then we'll go over kind of, the caveat to it, the positives, when you may actually consider doing these type of accounts. So with housing, of course, we're talking primarily apartment buildings. Sometimes, you can deal with like Section 8 housing. Those are the primary ones. Sometimes you'll get into, depending on where you live, maybe townhomes, but generally speaking, like little communities, right? The downside with these is they're rarely ever looking for the best service. They're looking for the best price. And really that kind of goes in with all of these to a certain degree, right? But I want to say with this one here, housing, followed by probably, I want to say it's hard. It's in between these public ones like schools and stuff and restaurants. I'll just give them both. I'll just say these are kind of the top 3. The ones that are underlined, those are the top 3 who tend to be kind of the cheapest, right? Housing, restaurants, and public. They're, like we said, they're all cheap. They all care about the price more than anything at the end of the day. But specifically with housing, like apartments, Section 8, all of that, public, like hospitals, things like this, they are also pretty cheap because, of course, they're on a budget, they're on limited funds, that kind of thing. And then, of course, restaurants, more so just because they're cheap asses more than anything. It's not even necessarily, I don't want to say that they're all cheap asses. Like, all of ours, they're paying premium pricing for our commercial pest control service because, I'm just very upfront whenever I'm explaining why we charge what we charge. I get over and over again, oh yeah, we were using a different company. They were charging us, $55 per month. And my price, I'll come in and tell them, hey, we're going to charge, because most of the time they have German roaches, right, with restaurants. I'll walk in there and tell them, hey, it's going to be $185, $195, whatever the price may be for your first service. Then it's going to be, $85 to $95 per additional service. We're going to have to come out every 2 weeks at first, and then eventually we'll get you to monthly, and then you'll just pay the $85, $95. That's usually where most of them are per month going forward, plus tax. And a lot of them are like, whoa. Yeah, I'm used to paying like $55, but, and I almost always, I don't cut them off. I kind of complete their sentence for them because I know where they're going. They're like, but, and I'm like, but, the service was obviously really bad, right? They weren't going in there doing what they needed to do. If I were to guess, they were probably in your restaurant 5 to 10 minutes, right? And they're like, yeah, no, you're pretty spot on. And I'm like, yeah, it's like most services, you get what you pay for at the end of the day. When we come in and I'll just list out just step by step, I'm like, not that it's a time thing. I'm like, there are instances where we won't be in there very long, right? We may be in there 15 minutes or so if there's just not very many issues, the glue boards aren't needing change, things that are good signs, right? But at the end of the day, we should be in there more than 5 minutes or something like that. So with restaurants, they're usually the easiest of these 3 that are underlined to kind of, get the pricing where they're not too worried about it. But my God, when it comes to housing, especially once the government gets involved, like Section 8, we do absolutely no Section 8 related type of housing. I don't even know if they refer to it as Section 8 anymore, but where the government would be stepping in and helping, paying for it. We don't do any of those, which reminds me, actually I have a customer I have to get back to, a German roach quote, but we don't do any of those whatsoever. And in all honesty anymore, when it comes to apartment quotes in general, and even hotels as well, like I said, all of these are cheapos at the end of the day, but when it comes to housing, like apartments and stuff, we just tell them straight up. In all honesty, it's probably not going to be worth our time to even come give you a quote, just because we're going to have to price our services so low just to compete. And whenever we go out to even give you a quote, we do a very thorough inspection to give you a precise quote and give you a plan. We don't treat every apartment complex like a cookie cutter situation, because we know every situation that we're coming into is going to be different. So we're not just coming in doing the same thing that you've been used to over and over and over. And, a lot of times that will actually make them respect you more as a company. They'll even admit, yeah, your price is definite, because I'll tell them, they'll be like, the follow-up question is from them on their end, well, what is your average pricing, right? Just to give us an idea. That way, we don't want to waste your time either. And I'll just tell them, well, let me ask, do you have any roaches? Almost always, yes, we have a little bit, blah, 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 blah. And I'll just tell them, yeah, no, to get started, you're probably going to be looking at $10 to $15 per door just to get everything started. Once we get everything under control, just walk them through that whole process, your price is going to go down almost 50% after that. But I know that's going to steer you guys away from us, because we are very expensive, because we want to actually get rid of the problem. We want you and your tenants to be happy at the end of the day. And they're, like I said, a lot of times when you're upfront with them like that, more times than not, they end up respecting you more. They're like, yeah, unfortunately you are expensive. Like, it is what it is from a budget standpoint. We're probably not going to get it approved in terms of going with us, for example, but we will definitely keep in contact with you in case if things fall through with the next company. Eventually maybe, the upper management will get their head out of their ass and do what they need to do. So, yeah, that's the main thing, when it comes to specifically these three. Oh, yeah, and then the public ones, of course, it's kind of self-explanatory, right? It's mostly just when they're funded. It's more so like public hospitals and things like that, where it's funded by the people, right? When anytime tax dollars are getting involved, the only way you're going to get it is if you're pricing the cheapest or like second cheapest, and your pitch might have been better than the guy who was the cheapest. Like, it's very rare that you're going to get any type of quote that comes from these type of guys down here. Like, when it comes to public, we pretty much just say we're too busy. Like, until you're a massive company, and I'll get into this a little bit more in just a little bit, in terms of, unless if you're to the stage where you're just pretty big company, you probably got at least bare minimum 10, if not 20 employees. You're pretty much going to stay away from these altogether, just because there's such little profit margin involved for us as the pest control company, that these just really aren't worth your time at the end of the day. I guess with housing too, you could also, because we didn't mention these guys over here, retirement communities, right? Those ones that look like little freaking mental institutions almost. It's insanity how they treat older people, but you could lump those in with housing as well. Another case of, for the most part, unless if you're going to quote the cheapest price, you're just rarely ever going to get it. Let me make sure we don't have any questions so far. No questions. Yeah, if you guys have any questions or anything, of course, do not hesitate to drop a question or comment down below about anything. It doesn't even necessarily have to be related to the topic of today about, why you should, for the most part, avoid commercial pest control service for your pest control business. It can be anything, business related or anything, in the scope of the channel, essentially. And if you're enjoying the stream so far, do me a favor, smash that thumbs up button. I see we got about 10 of you all in here right now. We got, I think, 2 likes so far. What is that, about a 20% like conversion? Go ahead and smash that like button for your boy. Lets me know that you guys love that we do these live streams and everything. And by the way, shout out to you all. The fact that we got about 10 of you all tuning in on a a Sunday evening, when you could be doing a whole bunch of other things. Shout out to you all for, wanting to grow your knowledge and just network with a bunch of like-minded people. My world, how's it going there, my world? Hello, everyone. Yeah, good evening to everybody. Next up, we kind of started hitting on restaurants, but I want to hit on shopping centers and hotels. So one thing that I do tend to like, and I know, like I said, I'm gonna get into this a little bit more here in a little bit, The one good thing in terms of a positive about shopping centers and hotels is you get a lot of what we call dual accounts. What do we mean by dual accounts? It means that you're going to be selling them more than one service typically, right? A lot of times, and sometimes even restaurants can get bundled into this as well, especially if it's like a standalone building. A lot of them down here in Dallas, Texas, are in a what do they call them, like a plaza. So unless if you get in contact with the actual owner, landlord of the entire plaza, you're not going to get the dual action. That's why I didn't include restaurants in this. But sometimes restaurants can be included in this as well. With shopping centers and hotels, we have a lot of opportunity to upsell in terms of getting not just the pest control or rodent, whichever they're calling about, but it's usually very, very easy, at least down here in my area from my experience, to upsell on, say they call in for pest, up them to a pest and rodent, or if they're calling in about rodent, upsell them to a rodent and pest plan. Just don't even try to sell them on just one, just go straight for the dual, and it almost sells itself every time. So get a little ahead of ourselves in terms of talking about advantages. Let's go in there. Mr. Eric, for residential customers, do you charge a late fee after how many days? So we usually don't have to deal with any late fees or anything just because all of our customers are on auto pay. We either have them set up where they're paying year over year or they're paying month over month when we're talking about residential accounts. And same thing, that's another thing actually, speaking of commercial accounts. A lot of people have issues getting their money from all these people. That's another reason why we usually do not sell that much in terms of commercial accounts, because we are getting paid like right there on the spot. We're not leaving until we get our money. I have a few of them that they're local small business owners like me who they have Zelle and they'll Zelle me the money, but all these other ones, like I have a card on file, and as soon as I pull up to do the service, I'm charging the card immediately. I don't understand why a lot of pest control companies feel almost scared when it comes to collecting the money. I mean, anytime anyone gets funny about the money, I know that they're more than likely a customer that I just do not want to deal with at the end of the day. But let's see, you said having trouble getting them into auto pay. Yeah, I mean, if they don't want to do the auto pay, then it's like, look, maybe we're not a fit for you. Just confront the beast at the end of the day. Just ask them straight up, like, well, what's your concerns? Don't be a dick about it or anything like that. Just literally, come off like you're wanting to, not necessarily like be a buddy. I'm trying to think how I want to phrase this, like, that you just want to address their concerns, right? Just, hey, this is how we do it. We don't have any issues with any of our other customers. Sound confident, like make it sound like it's never an issue with anybody else. So be like, I'm just curious, what's your concerns or what's your fear about setting you up on auto pay? Like, we're not going to double charge you. We're not, if for some reason there ever is an issue with double charging or anything, we send the refund immediately. Just address their concerns. Like I said, don't come off defensive or anything like that about it, because that's the last way you're going to get a sale for most people. But just stick to your guns at the end of the day. This is the way that we do it, and if they don't want to do it, you're not going to close every single customer. Like the saying goes, if you're closing over 50% of sales, you're not a good salesman. Your prices are too cheap and you're catering to too many people. That's what I usually hear a lot of times. I used to think, man, like I'm the shit. I'm closing 60%. I'd keep track of percentages and stuff, like 60%, 70%. I think one month, like early on, I was like at like close to 80%. And I was like, man, like I was like walking tall. And the more that I've learned about just sales and business and everything else, not just for the pest control business, just business in general, everyone's like, yeah, no, your closing rate, obviously you want it to be higher, but if you're closing, there's a certain threshold where it's like there's something going on. Either you're pricing too cheap, you're catering to people, you're doing shit for free when you should be charging for it. There's other stuff there. Being a people pleaser, quote unquote. I mean, obviously we're all in the business of pleasing people to a certain degree, but there's a fine line to walk with that. So yeah, just stick to your guns at the end of the day, and you know, the ones. The good thing about sticking to your guns, which I go into a whole nother topic, like a whole nother video about this, which I probably will at some point for you when someone pisses me off enough here someday. The good thing about sticking to your guns is you're gonna have a lot fewer of those incidents that we all hate when it comes to owning a business, which is, you know, awkward conversations, bad reviews, you know, all of the negative stuff that we know is inevitable with running and owning a business, especially in the service industry like a pest control business. It's inevitable. You're gonna have those situations, right? But whenever you stick to your guns up front, you set those expectations up front, and you know it. You kind of have a filter in place. It makes it where those instances become less and less and less. You know, my business is a prime example of this. When I first started, you know, I was a yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, yes ma'am, yes ma'am. Like, I mean, there'd be some things where I'd just be like, we can't do that. Like, it's just not, we're not doing that. But for the most part, again, like I said, we were closing a lot of sales, 60 to even upwards of 80% early on. And the more and more that I kept getting into it, and, you know, further and further, more and more sales, the more frequently we started getting pushback in terms of just, you know, oh, well, I thought you guys would do this because we were. And then when I was finally like, enough is enough of this. Like, we're not doing this anymore. We started obviously getting pushback for that because we set the expectation that we were going to do this, this, and that for this price. And then we kind of changed up on it, right? And like I said, there were a few times where I honestly thought, you know, we may get a bad review out of this. But thankfully, you know, people were understanding enough. You know, we just kind of went our separate ways. In some cases, I even offered full refunds out of it. Like, you know, it's a learning process. And that's why I do this channel. That's why I have this channel and all the content I post for you guys. Because like I said, I wish that when I started my pest control company, hence why one of the playlists in my YouTube channel is even named Things I Wish I Knew, something like Things I Wish I Knew When I Started My Pest Control Company. Because, like, had I had a YouTube channel or a podcast or whatever the case may be, and they're slowly but surely starting to be more and more, I notice. Now you have like the Bug Bucks community. I think there's another one like Pest Control Cemetery, something like that, which that's not really so business related. It's more so just the industry. But there's slowly but surely being more and more of us out here that are kind of explaining our journey. Some people are doing it more so for commercial reasons than others, but point being, when I started my business, there was like virtually zero information out there. Like, everybody was kind of tight to themselves. You know, it's during COVID as well in 2020. Nobody was wanting to help anybody. And, you know, the only way you were going to find out is through trial and error. So that's why, you know, on this channel, I just post everything that works, doesn't work, half-ass works, you know, just the whole 9 yards for you all to the best of my, you know, memory and ability and everything like that. But hopefully that kind of helps. Eric, if you're still watching, you know, let me know if you have a follow-up question or anything about that. I know we kind of got off on a tangent there about residential stuff specifically. Back to what we're talking about though, and hopefully you guys are enjoying the stream so far. If you are, do me a favor, smash that thumbs up button. It lets me know, lets YouTube know that you guys like this type of content. That way, one, I'll keep, you know, doing similar type of live streams for you all, and two, YouTube will recommend those streams and all that stuff to you all as well. But like we were talking about with shopping centers and hotels, we love the fact that you can at least have a much stronger opportunity to upsell, you know, what we would call a dual account, pest and rodent. Usually with these accounts specifically, we just go right in to selling pest and rodent. And then from there, the beauty of doing it that way too is, say price is an issue, we could say, oh, well, we were including, say they called about a pest issue, well, we were including our rodent control in that. If you want a cheaper price, we can go ahead and knock the rodent control off of that, and that'll save you X amount up front and X amount per month going forward, you know, whatever the case may be, right? So when it comes to the least favorites are underlined. And then if we were to decide on the commercial accounts that we like the most, I would say shopping centers and hotels, And then restaurants, is a slightly distant third, just because, let me just label these, I guess, in terms of worst to best. So we'll just label them, let's see, 1 through 5. Let me make a little note here. 1 through 5, 1 being best, and 5 being worst. So, and pretty much number 1 is what I would actually recommend, like what I like the most in terms of doing commercial pest control work. Number 1 would probably be shopping centers. This is going to be, plazas and stuff like that. If you have outlets or anything like that in your area, something like that. So number 1 would be shopping centers. Number 2 would probably be hotels. Number 3 would be restaurants. Number 4 would be housing. And then, like we said, number 5, which we just pretty much don't even price anymore, is the public, quote unquote, hospitals and things like that. Some people would probably completely disagree with me. I'm interested to know if any of you all have a pest control business, or maybe you're even a pest control technician who does a lot of commercial pest control work. You can let us know in the chat. How would you rank these 1 through 5 in terms of, what is what you would prefer if we were to say we actually want to prefer something when it comes to commercial pest control, and number 5 being, which is the worst out of housing, restaurants, shopping centers, hotels, and then, other public, entities like hospitals and things like that. Let us know in the chat, or even just let us know in the chat, which is your worst, which is your favorite. Make it even easier on you all. And if you have no experience, you can just say no experience. Let's see, none of y'all replied yet so far. Let me know down there in the chat. Which is the worst, which is the best? Would you say housing is the worst? Would you say restaurants are the worst? Or in terms of the best, would you say housing is the best and, shopping centers are the worst? Like I said, I'm interested to hear, what you guys think about that. Like I said, mine personally, best would be shopping centers. Worst would be those public places like hospitals, followed by probably housing, specifically like retirement centers and, Section 8, that type of thing. I'm trying to think what else. We went over, of course, that they're notoriously cheap. The amount of time, of course. How much time? So it's literally a double to triple whammy effect for why a lot of these up here, just in the commercial pest control side of things as a whole, why so many of them are just not really worth your time as a small pest control business owner, is because you're just getting double to triple whammied in terms of bad thing after bad thing after bad thing. So it's like you're already having to price stuff cheaper than what you usually would for, say, a residential account, right? And then you also are spending, generally speaking, more time there than you would at a residential account too. Like most of you that are in the pest control industry already know, when it comes to doing residential stops, sure, you may have those ones that take you 30 minutes to even an hour, the ones that live right off the lake, and you're always having to, pretty much do an initial every time you go out there, right? A whole bunch of web stream, for 10 or 20 minutes, and, inside every time. Like, we all have those residential customers, right? But if we were to put an average on it, you probably only spend about 15, maybe 20 minutes if you were to take the best and the worst and, get a median. You'd probably say 15 to 20 minutes as an average, assuming you're not lollygagging, doing 3 or 4 trips around the house. Generally speaking, residential, it's the best of both worlds because you get to charge more and you're getting more stops per day done. Where with commercial, it's kind of the worst of both worlds because it's less money per unit and it takes a lot more time. So why would anybody want to do this exactly? We'll go ahead and break that down, because there is a flip side to that coin. Like, obviously, these larger companies like Terminix and Orkin, and there's even some other, if you're in a larger metroplex like I am here in Dallas, you probably even have some local big guys who are pretty big when it comes to commercial pest control. Why would they be okay with doing such a low profit margin type of service, right? So, one word: scale. Specifically, scale. I don't even know if it's a word actually. Scalability. I don't even know if that's a word actually, but the ability to scale your business, your pest control business, with doing commercial work. So let's go back to the apartments, for example. Let's say an apartment complex calls you up. We'll just say, for an easy number, 250 units, right? Usually with these 250 units, you're going to have to come out once a week, sometimes, depending on the property management company, bi-weekly. But a lot of them, they're going to want you out there once a week. Usually what will happen is they have a binder specifically for you. Any of you that have done commercial pest control can, tell me if I'm full of shit or not. This is how it goes for us down here, at least. A lot of them, they'll have a binder for you where literally, the leasing agents, stuff like that, they'll answer calls. Say someone mentions, oh, I had a spider, or oh, I had a roach, or whatever the case may be. They'll write down who it was, which unit number it was, what the issue was, all of that. And then each time the pest control company would come out, you, the commercial pest control company, technician, whatever your role may be, you're going to go out there and they're going to give you that list. So usually on 250 units, you might have, give or take, 8 units, 8 to 10 units, sometimes none, right? Like I said, again, we're taking the worst day and then the best day and, trying to come up with an average, right? So say it's around 8 to 10 stops, or not 8 to 10 stops, but 8 to 10 units that you're going to have to retreat, quote unquote retreat, go inside and do some inside stuff. How's it going there, Christopher C? Oh yeah, no, you were the one that asked the question actually, so I'm glad you were able to join tonight's stream. How's it going there, Crawdad? I see what you did with your name there. That's funny. I like commercial better, not working outside so much, and you can actually make more money than residential. Love restaurant. Yeah, I like restaurants too. They're right in the middle for me. I don't know if you were in here a little bit ago, Crawdad, whenever I was listing out kind of like my favorite to my least favorite, or like worst to, least amount of worst, however you want to look at that scale. Restaurants was right around, I believe, like number 3 for me out of number 1 through 5. So it was like right in the middle. Actually, most of my commercial accounts, matter of fact, I'd say about 90% of them are restaurants, and I like it. I like those specifically as the owner because it's pretty much guaranteed money. Restaurants, they cannot stay in business without pest control. A lot of actual towns here in the Dallas, Texas area, a lot of the little suburbs actually have ordinances in place where you have to maintain some type of pest control now to even just, stay quote unquote legal, like operating. So yeah, no, there's definitely benefits, and that's actually what we're getting into now is, what type of benefits is there to doing the commercial pest control services, right? And you're spot on in terms of, especially down here in the South where it's hot as hell. I can't tell you, anytime I see a restaurant pop up on my schedule right now, because of it being 100 to 110 degrees every single freaking day right now, I'm like, yeah, I get to go inside. But it never fails. That'll be the day that the AC's out in the kitchen or something, and I'm like, fuck. But yeah, no, it definitely can be better, and we're gonna break that down here. My World says only residential for me, or yep, residential only. And then Han YOLO, how's it going? Only commercial accounts I enjoy are restaurants after they close. Yes, we primarily only treat them while they are closed. Make a whole route out of those, and you can have a night shift tech. Yeah, yeah. No, actually, I believe the Terminex, they have a commercial location in Richardson, Texas. I believe they have a couple of overnight techs as well. I don't think they're necessarily overnight. I want to say like early morning, like right around 3 a.m. or so. Those guys will get up and they work from, I want to say like 3 a.m. to noon or something like that. 4 a.m. to noon, somewhere around there. Generally speaking. Let's see, have a night shift, bring in money almost 24/7. Exactly. And hopefully you guys are enjoying the stream. If you haven't already, I know a lot of you already have. If you haven't already, do me a favor, smash the thumbs up button. Lets me know that you guys love tuning in for these live streams that we do. I'm trying to pump out more of them for you guys. We were doing only about one a week on average. I'm trying to up that to at least like 2 or 3 a week on top of the videos that we're posting as well for you guys. And I got some pretty big news coming soon for you guys. I'm not going to mention it or anything just because there's a lot of work to go on it, but doing some stuff on the back end for you guys that a lot of you guys have been asking me about lately. So definitely stay tuned. Subscribe if you haven't already. But back to our example, we're talking about an apartment complex with 250 units, right? Out of 250 units on average, like we said, you're going to have to go out there about, we'll just say weekly. Like we said, sometimes you can get lucky and you can go out there bi-weekly, but a lot of times they're going to want you out there weekly. And with the weekly, you're going to have, let's just say, an average of 10 units. We'll just say 10U. You're going to have 10 units that you have to go in and do some type of treatment, right? This is where a lot of companies will kind of half-ass it, right? They'll go in there and just splash and dash is what we call it, right? They'll go in there and they'll spend 30 to 90 seconds in the unit and, in and out onto the next one, right? And why do they do that? Because say you're in a unit for, let's say, we'll even say 2 minutes. We'll be generous with the time, right? 2 minutes times 10 units, that's 20 minutes. That doesn't include walk time to each unit. That doesn't include, all the little BS about, oh, well, I don't want to spray today, or, oh, well, this, like all the little small talk in between. By the time all said and done, that 10 units is going to take you, give or take, about an hour, right? So, baseboard jockey, yeah, right, exactly. So that 10 units will take you about an hour, and that's at just doing it, we'll say 45 minutes. At 2 minutes a door, right? Because of all the walking, the chit chat, this and that, it'll take you about 45 minutes or so. So say you just simply double that time. You go up to 4 minutes now, or let's even say 5 minutes for an easy number. You're now at 50 minutes for your treat time. You add another half hour for just the general BS. You're up to almost an hour and a half now for an account that your management or your scheduler probably only accounted maybe 30 to 45 minutes for, if you're lucky, right? So you see why a lot of these big companies, why they're okay with doing this, because the money that they are making, let's break down the math down here, the 250 units, they're usually going to charge about $3 to $4 per door. Let's just say 3. And that's per month. So that's $750 a month. And again, that's kind of on the low end of things. $4 would be, 1,000, so we'll say 750 to 1,000. And again, 4, you're probably getting on the higher end of the scale, in all honesty, but, $750 to $1,000 per month. You're going out there 4 times, right? So divide that by 4. In the case of the $1,000, that'd be at the max $250. On the low end, what about, just under 200, something like 190 to 195 each time you go out there. If you're out there for only 30 minutes to an hour, you can see why, you're making pretty good money in terms of that. So, like I said, there are banks. Oh yeah, I didn't even think about banks. I forgot about that. My commercial housing contracts are quarterly services. 1/3 of the units every month. Not sure if it's a cost. Wait, Commercial housing contracts are quarterly services. 1/3. So I do know people that do it like that too there. Alden, how's it going, by the way? Um, Not sure if it's cost effective for them, but that's how they wanted to. So yeah, I do know some that'll do it like that. I think actually my cousin, he has a couple of housing contracts in the Midwest in Missouri, and I think he has a couple of them who they're actually set up like that. They'll do, this building, this building, this building, and they will actually pay him for any callbacks in between on top of that. I'm like, how the hell did you get them to agree to that? But yeah, whatever it may take. Banks, but yeah, banks can be good as well. We didn't even get to hit on banks yet tonight. But I believe my wife actually just got home. I wanted to kind of, just come and do a quick live stream for you guys tonight, because this is also becoming a more and more common subject in terms of, is commercial pest control worth it, or is residential pest control worth it? So when I do my next live stream or video, we'll probably do a live stream because you guys seem to be liking this live stream a lot tonight. I'll do another one, like a part 2 in terms of residential. We'll look at the positives and negatives of residential, and then we'll do another one that literally just kind of compares the two, essentially, which is better ultimately. I think you guys are probably going to already know kind of what my answer is, but we'll kind of break down the numbers of residential as well in the next stream, and then in that following stream after that, we'll literally take the numbers from both of them and see which is better, commercial or residential. So hopefully you guys did enjoy the live stream tonight. If you did, just do me a favor, smash that thumbs up button. It lets me know you guys love doing these live streams and breaking down all the numbers and the fun details of, the pest control business. And if you're looking to start a pest control business or grow your pest control business, feel free to check out, all the content on the channel. If you have any ideas or, videos or live streams you want me to do in the future, don't hesitate to let me know in the comments after this live stream goes from a live to a video as well. I usually see those comments the next day. And until next time, guys, stay safe this week, stay cool, and go out there and get the life that you and your family deserve. Good night, everybody.